Good evening. This is Rahul Reddy. Today we are going to we're going to discuss about the October visa bulletin of 2022, but the fiscal year of 2023. It's a very bad news for a lot of people. What happened, Emily? Sometimes we predicted the prior date is going to move, but it didn't move. Can you explain, Emily?
Yeah, so we talked about this a little bit yesterday, that we had some information about EB1 and EB2 being completely used up for this fiscal year a little bit early. We have till September 30th. Now it's September 7th. And they ran out of those. Today it sounds like EB3 has now run out for the year. Now, of course, we get next year's green cards on October 1st. But when we get the October 1st visa bulletin, it's showing this retrogression for EB2. What is causing that? In order to be able to actually use up all 280,000 green cards that were available for employment based in this past fiscal year, USCIS had to make sure they had enough applications pending to have them to be able to approve. Unfortunately, that their ability to not waste green cards this year turned into having too many applications filed. So we have extra applications pending right now where there's no green card available. They decided there are actually enough applications pending already to use up the available EB2 green cards without moving the date forward at all and actually having to move the date backward. So basically, it's a combination of that, having too many applications filed in this fiscal year, not being able to approve them all because there weren't enough visas. Those will spill over to next fiscal year. At the same time, next fiscal year, we will have significantly lower number of green cards available to EB2 India because we're not going to have that family-based spillover that we've had for the last 2 years.
We're not going to have any family-based spillover?
We don't know yet if or how much we will have, but it's definitely going to be a significant, this is in the visa bulletin itself. They said there's a significantly lower visa availability for India EB2 fiscal year 2023. And that's because of the lack of spillover, as well as fewer visas falling down from EB1 because EB1 has been utilized so much.
Assuming that there is no spillover, Emily, out of the 40,000 green cards, Indians are not going to get anything, or they're going to get their minimum 7%?
Yeah, they will get their minimum 7% of the 28% for EB2.
So out of the 140,000, 28% is actually 40,000. Out of that 40,000, 7% is actually 2,800 green cards. And in that, if they count the family members, approximately anywhere between 1,200 to 1,400 people who are applicants will get the 485. Now, that's very, very minimal. So do you know how many adjustment of status applications are pending in EB2 from India?
Yeah, so we have the preliminary numbers, and it's about a little over 30,000 that are pending right now that are not able to be approved in this fiscal year, will go into next fiscal year. So if we only have 1,400 available, or
okay.
Actually, that's more like maybe 7,000 to 10,000 that we actually will get.
Well, actually, it's 2,800 is allocated though. This 30,000 you're speaking about includes the family members.
It does.
So practically, if we go with the 2,000, if 2,800, let's say even if we get 3,000, a minimum of 2,800, that's going to take approximately 10 years to clear up the one load that we already have.
Correct.
Of course, there may be a spillover from the other countries when they don't use the things. They will fall into the Indian immigration, though. But if the other countries are using very much number of the green cards, though, the Indian guys are going to only get 2,800 to clear the inventory that they have. It's going to take 10 years. That means that there is no chance that it's going to move to 2015 priority date any sooner if the things remain as they are, unless a miracle happens. Of course, that's the reason why we are taking this occasion to say, yes, it's definitely a bad news for everybody, but what can you guys do is to not count the family members. Now we're going to discuss that later on, what we can do, what you can do to help. Remember that you guys got this 280,000 green cards finished in this whole year, which is very good. That's a good job you did, but still more job is needed. But we're going to discuss more about what goes on with the people whose adjustment of status is pending. Can they travel in advance parole and use the EAD assembly?
Yeah, so if you are able to file your 485, but it can't be approved because of this retrogression, it will remain pending. It's just kind of put on hold. You can continue to get EADs. You can continue to get your AP. So if you haven't received those yet, those will still be processed. You can keep renewing it, usually in 2-year increments, the entire time your 485 is pending. So you can work using your EAD, you can travel using your AP, and you can change jobs using AC-21 as long as the new job is similar to the job that you were originally sponsored for. So there is definitely a benefit to having a pending 485 versus not having that at all. Certainly.
Emily, what if I want to change the employer? Can I change the employer?
Yes. So with AC-21, as long as your 485 has been pending for 180 days, and we're assuming your I-140 has been approved by now, you can change jobs as long as the new job is similar to the job that you were previously sponsored for. It does not have to be exactly the same. It can be career progression, so it can be a promotion compared to what you have now. It can be in a different location, different salary. Any of those options are available. USCIS does recognize these types of changes in someone's career over a long period of time.
One of the things that I would recommend is that if you have not filed the 485 application, people ask the question, when does a priority date knows? Why were you guys wrong in predicting priority date? That's a common question that is coming in. I take the liberty of saying that I'm probably the worst predictor of the priority date. There's definitely many factors involved in it, which is that one of the main factors we didn't know that the consulates are going to adjudicate the family immigration such a fast extent. Just like the way they did with the business immigration, they also took the same incentive in approving all the green cards, the numbers that are allocated in the family immigration, which may be good for some people, but probably not good for most of our audiences though. That's one of the things. The other thing is that they did wasted approximately 60 to 70,000 green cards last year though. A lot of criticism is coming on Reddy Neumann PC, why and all those things. Of course, you know, why can't you guys predict properly? No, we cannot. We already said many times our predictions go wrong very many times. One thing we did, we are proud to say that we have initiated the program of contacting the congressmen, contacting the senators, contacting the ombudsman, contacting the USCIS. We have drafted the letter. Many of our audiences have written because of that. The entire 280,000 green cards were being used. If you compare that to last year, which they wasted a lot of green cards, and this 280,000 green cards is the record number of green cards ever given since the time I've been practicing immigration law. That's from 1995 to right now, record number of green cards that have been given. So that's good. It's good news to an extent that they use the 280,000 green cards, but definitely going forward seems to be very bleak unless something changes. The reason why we put this one is that we're going to come up with the policies where what we can do, or what you guys can do, where we can change the visa bulletin. That is two things that we have. Option is keep writing letters. We put it down there in the video to write the letters to the congressman, to the ombudsman, to the USCIS directors, where you request them not to count the family members. Because if we don't count the family members, the 140,000 will automatically become approximately 300,000 green cards. That'll be good enough. We don't have to go to the parliament or Congress in USA, what they call it as. We don't have to go to the Congress. We can resolve it in the administration. This administration did a decent job, even though they did a poor job first year. When they came to the second year, they did a very good job. You know, that's we should try to see if we can push to them to get another one. Does this kind of thing happen where retrogression happened before? Yes, the retrogression happened in 1996. I was an immigration lawyer at the time. I personally was the benefactor of it. I actually got my green card in May of 1996. We got the visa bulletin of in May by the time I went for the interview for the June of 1996, Emily, and it was backtracked for my wife's priority date. Luckily, we were able to get out. The people got stuck there, got stuck in 1996. They took almost like 3 to 4 years for them to get the green card though. I have seen, you and I have seen, as a Reddy Neumann PC, In 2007, the priority dates were current for everybody. I mean, it's current for everybody. And we filed the 485 applications for all the people. The dates backtracked, and it took almost up to 2012 to clear up all the things that were filed in 2007. So it took 2008, 9, 10, 11, 12, or at least until 2011 to clear up. Until 2011, it took to clear up those things. Now, of course, in 2011 ending and in the beginning of 2012, it opened up, and after that, it took almost up to 2020 to clear up any of those things. In 2020, now we have it all the way to 2022. We had a good run, absolutely nothing wrong. What will happen to the applications that are pending here? Be prepared to stay in adjustment of status for a long time. It's a very bad thing, but what is good for those people who are filed in adjustment of status is that even if the Trump administration comes back, though, EAD is a dead easy thing to get it. I mean, it doesn't require an end client letter. It doesn't require a vendor letter. It doesn't require a filing fees. It doesn't require a lot of things which are normally required. And you have an automatic extension if you file an EAD before your EAD expires, though. You get an automatic extension of approximately, not approximately, 540 days. In between that time, you would be able to get the EAD approval. So that's a good news. Not a lot of money. Even if you go through a lawyer, they don't charge much money because we don't do much work in there. I mean, we just have to put everything. We have to charge some administrative costs and also FedEx and other things. And does a lawyer look really into the EAD application? Yes, all the boxes are ticked. That's it, file the application. It's so simple, the EAD in advance for application. Yes, you may have to sit here for a long period of time. And for the people who have been waiting for adjustment of status, it's really disappointing for them. I mean, it's very saddening to them that they were unable to get it. We wasted the 70,000 green cards. I mean, they have used up all the family immigration, which I would not say it's a bad thing, but it happened to be bad things for the people who have been waiting for the adjustment of status in the employment-based category. Definitely, we have proposals for them, just like the way we got the 280,000 green cards with your help. We all got to it together. We need to do it to not count the family members to get back to 280,000 every year. That's what we want. Emily, anything else that you want to do?
Yeah, I also wanted to talk about the September visa bulletin because we mentioned yesterday that we know for sure EB1 and EB2 across the board ran out of green cards yesterday, so they are completely unavailable. That means that USCIS cannot approve any more for the rest of this month unless they have already allocated that visa before they ran out. And then today we learned that EB3 has run out for the rest of this fiscal year, which luckily is only till the end of September. So there will be a time period in the rest of September where USCIS will not be able to approve any 485s in EB1, 2, or 3 if they had not already allocated the visa. That means that the Department of State is possibly going to come out with a new September visa bulletin, making EB1, EB2, and EB3 all unavailable. They have not done that yet. That's a good thing, because if you're someone that has not yet filed and your date is current in September and not current in October, you can still file as of this moment. Make sure you get it filed today. Because that visa bulletin might come out tomorrow, a new September visa bulletin making everything unavailable. We don't know. They could possibly choose not to do a new September visa bulletin. They've done that in the past. I believe in 2019, they ran out of green cards early, but they did not.
They won't still approve the green cards.
Right, they won't approve them, but they were still accepting
the application. Especially if you want to file an application, they will accept the application.
So keep an eye on that. If you're intending to file, make sure that there's no new September visa bulletin by the time you do actually file. Get that filed soon. For those that are pending, though, we talked yesterday, how often does it happen where the visa has actually been allocated well before USCIS approves the application? And that's pretty rare. It does happen, but it's very rare. Usually the allocation of the visa is at the very end, the very last thing they do once everything's in place, all RFEs are responded to, medical looks good, security checks are done, fingerprints are good. Then they check to see if there's a visa available, allocate it, and approve it. So for most of the people that are still pending as of today, even if their date looks current in September, I would not expect to receive an approval at this point.
PK has a very interesting question. How can they use up 70,000 green cards in a month? Isn't that the average speed is 35,000 and they may have assigned to the people who are already pending in there? Not true, PK, because when we look into our own statistics though, which we're going to publish it by next week in the immigrationgirl.com, the amount of green cards that were approved in August are humongous. I mean, humongous. It's unbelievable number of things that we have seen. I mean, it took 2 days to open, 2 people for hours to open the mail. I mean, that's how much it took, especially for the yesterday mail, it took just to look into the approvals of those things. So definitely they have used up. Based on the information you have, Emily, there are some people who have been allocated the numbers, is that right, Emily?
So there
seems to be that.
Yeah.
Approximately 3,000 people.
Well, they're basically, this number is through August 31st. So as of that date, they still had about 2,700 left.
Okay, I got it.
But I think by September 6th, they used
September
those.
6th, they probably use those, yeah. It will be very unlikely that if your green card is not approved, that it will be approved. Very unlikely right now. Even if your priority date is 2010, it is very unlikely. Now, I know that EB2 is confirmed. Are we confirming right now EB3 is also done?
We've got intel on that seems pretty reliable.
Okay.
But I don't think it's been widely published yet.
Okay.
So we still have to wait on that.
Well, I know that EB2s, of course, we got the official information, but I mean, not through the proper sources. Mm-hmm. But EB3,
that one's not really been shared publicly.
Not shared publicly. Okay. So now EB3 and EB2 both are gone. That's not good now. Now, what do people who have not filed the adjustment of status, what do they do? I mean, there are a lot of different techniques that we have suggested previously. You may want to consider moving into a full-time company. The reason why we tell this is that consulting companies always face trouble in extending the H-1Bs. Previously, when the priority date is nearby, we have told people not to move. Of course we did. We went wrong in it. We're expecting the priority date, we are hoping and we're expecting the priority date to move. But of course, most of our projections in the priority date turned out to be good. So if you are planning to move because they have published the information, unless, remember that something can always come and change it. You may want to consider moving out to a full-time company if you're holding on to the company. That may be a thing. What if a different government comes in? Right now, the H1 approval seems to be coming for 3 years. Everything is going good for the H1 visas compared to what it was between 2016 and 2020. After 2021, things have changed a lot on the H1 visa. So you may want to consider that. The good part is H4 EAD definitely is going very good. We have the 540-day extension, and you guys already know how to go to Margarita, 540-day extension for H4. That's a trick that was invented by us, where you can go to Mexico and come back. It's called automatic revalidation. That's one trick that you have available. Anything else, Emily? Any questions that you want to go?
Let's see what we've got coming in. So now that we have this retrogression in EB2 for October, what are the chances of EB2 moving forward at all in 2023? As we said, if there are 30,000 green cards still pending in EB2, and maybe each year USCIS can use 10,000 of the available for India, then we're looking at 3 years to get through that. And so yes, that date,
that is the best case
scenario. It's probably best case scenario. So yeah, that date will slowly move forward over the next 3 years to get back to potentially December 2014.
And the worst case scenario is approximately 7 to 10 years is the worst case scenario.
Yeah, and that depends on how much spill down there is from EB1, how much family-based spillover there is, if there's any, and then how much rest of world EB2 uses the available green cards, because anything not used by those does spill across to EB2 India.
You got D from YouTube. Totally disappointing with U.S. immigration. Absolutely agreed. Immigration lawyers should lobby for immigrants. Yes, we do, but we want your cooperation. We have written letters down there to write the letters to the congressman, though. I want you guys, when you go to the Indian cultural organizations, though, when I go to my age people, they have no clue, guys, what you are going through. I mean, they don't, once they climb up the ladder, they get the green card. Believe me, even the batch that got the green card right now, if you meet them after 2-3 years, they don't care about you guys. That sometimes is very disappointing to me. I mean, I can feel you guys. Maybe if I'm not in the immigration field, maybe I would have been one of those guys. I may have been, but when I feel, when I touch, when I see, when I speak with you, it really melts down. So I want you guys, when you go to this cultural organization, make sure that they also write letters. Hey, they have been a beneficiary of this immigration program. They should also write letters to the congressman. And in every cultural organization where you go, you should put a booth. Collect some booths. It's a non-profit. You're not going to do anything there. So put a booth there. And if you need any assistance from us, where we can come and speak there, and we can come and convince those organizations, look, this is a charitable purposes. This is something that you guys have benefited. We want the rest of the people benefit, like Telugu Cultural Association, Marathi Cultural Association, Gujarati Cultural Association. We need to go there. We need to have these people write a letter. Have a laptops there. Have those things. Print out those things. Put a mail there itself. Have them sign there itself. That'll be easier, because if you just tell them to write a letter, they won't write a letter. You go there, you go with the laptop, you go with the printers, you mail it. You spend that 50 cents on and plus 10 cents for the envelope. That's not a big money, but you cannot send a letter on behalf of them. You cannot sign on behalf of them, but they need to write a letter. And we have drafted the letter. It's down there. Just make some modifications. That'll be good.
Ram says, what is the purpose of these priority dates if USCIS is not following priority date order in approving these applications? Yeah, that's definitely true. They don't. They claim that they do first in, first out, whether it's based on priority date or received date. We don't really know. They don't seem to follow it, but they do have some reasonable explanations for that. One of the issues is because they allow concurrent filing of the I-140 and I-485. So in that situation, if the I-140 is not yet approved, how much work is that officer going to do on the 485 to get it ready to approve if the I-140 might get denied or might get delayed, and these I-140s were taking a very long time. So for the people that filed those concurrently in October 2020, yeah, they filed earlier than people that ended up filing in 2022, but their I-140s were not approved during that time, so they couldn't adjudicate those 485s. So that's one of the reasons. And then also at that time, we had different service centers. We had Texas, we had Nebraska, and then we added National Benefits Center. Each service center kind of does things their own way. They have their own processing times based on their caseload. Everything got delayed in Texas because they received all of those I-140 downgrades. Things got delayed in Nebraska. Then we moved things to National Benefits Center, but the people that went directly to the National Benefits Center were able to be processed faster because they weren't stuck in that quagmire of Texas and Nebraska. And then at the same time, National Benefits Center is doling things out to different field offices. All those field offices have different numbers of officers. They have their own processes, their own processing times, different availability. So they're, with all of that things being spread out everywhere and people in different parts of the process, it's almost impossible for them to truly do first in, first out. And then you also have situations where people who, had an earlier priority date couldn't file the 485 because maybe they changed employers and had to wait for the new perm. And then they do get the new perm and the new I-140, and then they jump in line later, but their priority date is earlier. How should they be processed? Should they get a faster approval because they have the earlier priority date, or should they have to wait longer because they filed later? There's no right answer to any of that, and so I think that's some of the challenge that USCIS has been facing with this whole idea of first in, first out. It sounds like a good idea. I think they would want to do it, but how do you practically do it with concurrent filing and multiple field offices and service centers adjudicating?
Prashant Joshi and his wife's green card got approved yesterday. That's very good, probably in the morning. But unfortunately, the children did not get it. They got the biometric notice. Can they get approval right now? His priority date is April 30th, 2012, which is not current in the final action in October. Now, there is a chance they may have allocated to the child. There is a chance they may not have allocated. There's a good chance they may not have allocated it to the child. If that happens, if he doesn't get the green card by October, though, you may want to seriously consider contacting lawyer to file a F2A. That's something that's available, and fortunately, F2A is current in October of 2022. So that's a good thing for it, where you need to look into the alternative sources of filing a 485, filing a green card application for you.
00 says, if someone's scheduled for an interview the last week of September, does that mean a visa number is allocated? Is there any hope if an interview is scheduled? No, it does not mean a visa number is allocated. We had interviews yesterday before the visas ran out, and then at the end of the interview, they said, oops, sorry, they already ran out. So having an interview does not mean the visa is allocated. Most of the time, it is the very last step that is done. So most people at this point, it's unlikely that the visa has been allocated unless they're in an unusual situation. It's pretty rare that that actually happens.
Shabir has this question. If 2,700 visas available per country, how they segregate between EB1, EB2, and EB3? One thing is that it's not allocated to the country. It's the maximum that is allowed. And it is not 2,700. It is 2,800. It is 2,800 for EB1, 2,800 for EB2, 2,800 for EB3. That is how we do it. Now, anything that means out of the 40,000 EB1s, if nobody uses the 40,000 of them, those excess EB1s will come to EB2. Let's say only 35,000 is used, 5,000 will come to EB2. That means that EB2 will get 45. But looking into the way they're adjudicating the EB1s, we do not think so that there will be a spillover next year. That means that EB1 will have 40,000, EB2 will have 40,000, EB3 will have 40,000. That means that for Indian national, the maximum that is allowed is 2,800 in EB1, 2,800 EB2, 2,800 in EB3. Then, if anybody who doesn't use in EB1, Indians may get excess in EB1. And same thing in EB2. If nobody uses, it's like this, guys. It's a buffet. In this buffet, 400 people are allowed. But let's say, 40,000 people are allowed. Out of the 40,000, only 2,800 Indians are allowed. Then if nobody eats there in the EB1, let's say this is the first class, okay? This is the first class. 40,000 people are invited there. 2,800 Indians are already in line. They will already get in. Rest, if nobody comes there, then what they will do is that the people who are standing in the line, Indians, hey, nobody came in, come over, guys. The same thing with EB2, guys. That the buffet, food is there available for 40,000 people. Only 2,800 Indians are invited there. If the rest of the people don't show up, they will call in the Indians. And the same thing is with EB3. It's definitely, it's discriminatory. It's heartbreaking that why you should look into the country of birth. Don't we have the constitution and all those things? Unfortunately, it's a very lengthy story, but that's what the figure is right now. So in essence, 2,800 is there now. That's and what we're trying to do is to take off the family members. We should not count the family members. So that's what we're trying to do. But 2,800 is the maximum allowed. So think of this thing: out of the 65,000 H1B plus 20,000 of master's degree, 60% goes because they don't look into the per country and they don't look into the family members. So that's the reason why Indians will get approximately 60%. But when it comes to the green card, though, that not looking into the country of birth is not there. From 60%, we go to 7%. Of course, there will be the bottleneck, and that is where the bottleneck is. So out of the 85,000, we get approximately 50,000 green cards, for, H1Bs for Indians. When it comes to the green cards, though, it's only 10,000, and then they're including the family members. So 10,000 is out of the 140,000 green cards I'm speaking about. So then 5,000 people are getting it. So 50,000 to 5,000 each year, we have a 10-year waiting period. So unless something is done, especially for those people who have been waiting like 2018, 19 to 2021 and 22, you should not hope to get the green card unless something happens. And that something has to happen only on you. You guys are responsible for it. You need to write the letters.
All right, I want to take a second to talk about CSPA, or the Child Status Protection Act. Our case says I've interfiled in EB2 with a priority date of May 2014. Does it lock in my child's age? So to lock the child's age, you need an approved I-140, and then look at the child's age on the first day of the month that final action date became current. So since your EB2 final action date did become current, as long as you interfiled, then you would lock in your child's age. So the interfiling is the receipt of the 485J supplement. So even if you haven't received the receipt notice yet, as long as that has actually been filed, that's the day that your child's age stays locked. Now going forward, even though EB2 is retrogressing back more than what your priority date is, your child's age stays locked. It never becomes unlocked. Once it's locked in, they're good until you actually receive the green card. So even if it does take 10 years to get back to May 2014, your child 10 years from now, if they're 30 years old, they can still qualify.
Mona Gopal Lani, husband's green card approved, mine is still stuck in Texas Service Center. Any chance of getting green card this year? Very, very less chance, unfortunately. Siva Krishna, how many family spillovers from EB-based family-based to EB in 2023? That means the things that have been wasted in 2022, though. Very minimal, though, because the State Department knows that how many green cards will be wasted. Based on that, they already moved the dates. They have specifically pointed out that, look, in EB2, Indians are going to get very minimal green cards in the year of 2023. They made a point when they issued the visa bulletin. So probably based on that, we're expecting very less number of spillovers. Remember that this is just an expectation. Based on that, they published it. When they actually will come to know is when the visa numbers are over for those particular family categories. They may come to know on September 30th, and they may spill over some things. But at this point of time, the State Department already know they can expect how many will be spilled over. Based on that, they move the dates. So most probably there will be very minimal, maybe 10,000, maybe 20,000, maybe none at all. Baja Rajan, rest in peace, all predictions. Yeah, you're right. Now people will pray for expect COVID-3. No, I wish, don't do that. There should be something else better that I suggest you, Bala, that you can do is write letter to the congressman and force everybody to write letters to congressmen. Don't ever expect evil things on the other people. That's not good for you. That's not good for us. That's not good for the society. Let's try to fight for getting the family members not counted towards the green card.
Morales said, remember when USCIS said that everyone who applied before June 2022 should get the approval? What happened to that? Well, yeah, they did definitely process a lot of applications that were filed, in 2022. Unfortunately,
they did it from the people who filed from April of 2022 or January of 2022 to June of 2022. They processed almost everybody.
Yeah, but not the people who are already
filed in October of 2000.
Unfortunately, and then I don't think they predicted that they would be so fast, so efficient that they actually used them all up early, 3 weeks early.
70,000 green cards in 1 month and 1 week. That's a very great record. I mean, that's a very great record. That how many number of green cards they did it. Yeah, family-based spillovers will be allocated proportionately, 28% to EB1, 28% to EB2, 28% to EB3, and the rest of it to EB4, EB5 respectively, EB5. Well, Eagle Act, and there are a lot of other proposals, Harita, but the best thing that we are suggesting right now is to definitely not count the family members. That's an easy thing because Eagle Act has to go to the Congress, and Congress is not, they just don't do anything. I mean, everything they say that 60 people have to approve it, which they don't do anything there.
And where can people find the letter for the not counting family members?
It's there, Emily, at the video link that we have provided.
So if you're on YouTube, check below the video for a link to that.
Send that to Congressman, Ombudsman, send it to USCIS office, send it to your local Congressman, House of Representatives. Now, House of Representatives is different and Senator is different. Go ahead, send it to House of Representatives, 2 senators, and also send it to USCIS director, also send it to the Ombudsman's office.
Prashant says, can I renew my EAD even though I choose to remain on H-1B? Yes, you can always, and we do recommend, even if you're going to continue with your non-immigrant status, always have a valid EAD and AP, because you never know if you get in a situation where you lose your H-1B status unexpectedly, you have that EAD to fall back on. Or if you need to travel due to an emergency and you can't get a visa appointment, you have that AP to fall back on. So yes, you can keep renewing those even if you have no plans to use it, but we definitely would recommend it.
Srikanth has this interesting thing. 280,000 green cards are issued. Isn't it a miracle? Should we, I'm adding this to it. Should we be happy about it or should we be sad? It's both. I mean, it's a mixed reaction though. I'm definitely happy that 280,000 green cards have been issued. I'm definitely very, very happy for it. What I'm not happy about it is that the way they are counting the family members, they shouldn't have been counting the family members. And the way that the business immigration has this discriminatory theory, a country can get only 7% of it. I'm not happy about it. So these are the things I'm not happy with. I'm very, 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 very happy that they used the 280,000 green cards. I have no regrets for it. Absolutely, that is the best thing that happened. The rest of the side things is where I'm not happy for. The people who filed in October of 2020 did not get the green card, but the people who filed in June of 2000, and some in cases July of 2022, got the green card. So definitely that's not something they should have given the people before. So there are some things I'm not happy, but I'm definitely happy for 280,000 green cards.
Another question on filing in that F2A category. So if you're in that situation where one of the family members received the green card, but the others are still pending, you can file that I-130 in the F2A category, and that category is current, which means if your family members are maintaining their non-immigrant status, you can file a 485 along with that I-130. And can you have a pending employment-based 485 pending as a derivative and a pending family-based 485? Absolutely, no problem with that at all. We went through this with the whole downgrade, upgrade, refile mess. We told you then you can file a second 485. No problem having one in employment-based and one in family-based. All right, well, I think we have a lot of repeat questions at this point. Thank you all for joining us. We're sorry it's not under better circumstances for those that are waiting in EB2, but we'll be back on Tuesday with our regular weekly update.
Thank you very much.